Have you ever wondered what kept the Roman war machine marching? Not the glint of iron, nor the might of legions, but something far humbler: food. Yes, the empire wasn't built on conquest alone. It was built on grain, cheese, garlic, and vinegar. The diet of a Roman legionary wasn't just a source of energy. It was a symbol of survival, a tool of discipline, and a quiet engine behind centuries of war and empire. Today, we step into the boots of a Roman soldier, not to fight, but to eat. At the heart of the Roman soldier's ration was frumentum, wheat grain. This was the lifeblood of the legion, packed into heavy sacks and stored meticulously. It wasn't eaten raw, of course. It was ground into flour using portable mills, then baked into buxulatum, a dry, hard bread. Think of it as the ancient version of military rations, durable, non-perishable, and tough enough to survive a campaign. Sometimes it was turned into pools, a thick, nourishing porridge. Simple, yes, but packed with carbohydrates for long marches and grueling drills. But Roman soldiers didn't march on wheat alone. Their diets were enhanced by legumes, lentils, chickpeas, and broad beans, soaked and boiled into stews or mashed into pastes. These legumes were rich in fiber and protein, inexpensive, and easy to store. They weren't glamorous, but they kept the bowels working and muscles firm. The Romans understood something modern armies sometimes forget: digestion is strategy. To season their meals, legionaries turned to staples like onions, garlic, and cabbage. These hardy vegetables not only grew well in Mediterranean climates, but also stored well on the road. Garlic, especially, was more than food. It was considered medicinal, believed to strengthen the heart and cleanse the blood. When soldiers camped along riverbanks or in enemy territory, these humble veggies became comfort food, simple, familiar, grounding. Cheese was another crucial part of the diet. Often made from goats or sheep's milk, it was salty and firm, perfect for travel. It added necessary fats and protein, and in a world without refrigeration, it was one of the few stable dairy products that could last through a campaign. When paired with bread and posca, cheese completed the triumvirate of the Roman lunch. Now let's talk about meat. The Roman legionary didn't feast on roast boar every night. In fact, meat was rare and precious. Sometimes soldiers would hunt wild game, rabbits, deer, even birds, or seize livestock from defeated villages. But mostly pork was the preferred meat, especially because it preserved well when salted or smoked. Romans prided themselves on using every part of the animal. Nothing was wasted. Offal, fat, and bones all had a purpose. Whether boiled into broth or salted for later, pork was a treasure, not just a treat. But perhaps the most curious part of a Roman soldier's diet was what he drank. Posca, a concoction of water and vinegar, was the go-to beverage of the legion. It sounds awful, sharp, sour, strange, but posca was crucial. The vinegar killed bacteria in questionable water supplies and acted as a mild antiseptic. More than that, it was refreshing on long, hot marches, and some even believed it aided digestion. It was cheap, safe, and strategic. While posca might have been the everyday drink, wine was also issued on occasion, especially during celebrations or religious rites. But unlike the rich, luxurious wine of Roman nobility, the soldiers' wine was thin, often diluted, and served more as a ritual than refreshment. The Roman diet wasn't built on luxury, it was built on practicality, and every item, from salted pork to vinegar water, had a purpose. But food wasn't just nutrition, it was discipline, it was unity. To break bread in the camp was to share trust, to survive another day together under the eagle's standard. And when things went wrong, when a soldier broke the rules or failed in his duties, his stomach felt it first, because nothing communicated punishment more clearly than a bowl of barley. Imagine standing in line after a failed drill, your commander stone-faced, and in your bowl, barley, not wheat, not porridge, not bread, just barley, raw, chewy, tasteless. To the Roman soldier, this wasn't just food, it was shame. A grain once fed to animals now fed to men who failed. Because in the Roman army, your diet was your status, and barley meant you had fallen from grace. Barley was used as a punishment ration. It wasn't poisonous or unsafe, but in a world where taste meant morale and food meant pride, barley was humiliating. The texture was rough, harder to cook, and heavier in the gut. Soldiers resented it not for its nutrition, but for its message: you didn't earn your wheat. This system of dietary reward and punishment was central to military discipline. The Romans didn't just build empires, they built order, and food was part of the hierarchy. Higher ranks got more, commanders ate better, and those who faltered, they ate less or worse. Barley, in this context, was a silent teacher, one that taught through the stomach. But food wasn't just about punishment, it was about ritual. Every Roman legionary carried a ration bag, often leather or thick cloth, packed with dried wheat, legumes, salt, and sometimes dried meat. It was called the sarcina, and it was sacred. It wasn't just a lunchbox, it was your lifeline. You could lose your sword and still survive. Lose your ration bag, you were finished. When the legions set up camp each evening, one of the first priorities, after digging ditches and setting up defenses, was food preparation. Small fires dotted the camp, and the smell of stewing lentils and baking bread filled the air. Soldiers worked in concubinea, groups of 8 men sharing tents, supplies, and meals. Cooking wasn't just a necessity, it was a bonding ritual. Each group took turns grinding flour, lighting fires, stirring stews. These weren't gourmet meals, but in the eyes of a tired soldier, they were heaven. And then there was salt, white gold. It preserved meat, flavored porridges, and sustained life. In fact, the word salary comes from sal, the Latin word for salt, because soldiers were sometimes paid in salt or given a salt allowance. Its value cannot be overstated. Without refrigeration, armies would have collapsed without it. Salted pork, salted fish, even salted cheese. The Roman Empire didn't just march on its legions, it marched on its salt routes. Even more surprising was the role of olive oil. To us, it's a kitchen staple. To the Roman soldier, it was a miracle. It was used in cooking, drizzled on bread, or stirred into porridge, but also in skincare. Soldiers rubbed it on their skin to protect from sunburn and to clean themselves. No soap, no problem. Oil and a scraping tool called a strigil did the trick. They'd apply oil, then scrape away dirt, sweat, and grime. In freezing winters and dry deserts, olive oil kept skin supple and wounds from festering. When stationed in foreign territories, soldiers adapted to local foods. In Gaul, they might find apples or root vegetables. In Judea, dates and flatbreads. In North Africa, spiced grains or nuts. But Roman structure remained. No matter where the legion went, the core ration stayed the same: wheat, legumes, cheese, posca, and salt. This uniformity wasn't just logistical, it was psychological. It reminded soldiers who they were and whom they served. And yet there were moments of joy. Feast days, victories, or birthday celebrations might bring unexpected luxuries: roasted meats, sweet wine, honey cakes. For a moment, the war faded, laughter returned, and around the campfire, even the toughest centurion became a man with a belly and a story. Food didn't just keep the army alive, it kept its soul intact. Still, the most common meal, porridge, thick, hot, sometimes bland, sometimes flavored with herbs or oil. It stuck to the ribs. It didn't impress, but it endured, like the men who ate it. Roman soldiers weren't fed to enjoy, they were fed to last. Because when morning came, the bread was packed, the gear was hoisted, and under the sun or in the snow, the legion marched on, not because they wanted to, but because they could. Fueled by food not fit for kings, but perfect for warriors. They say an army marches on its stomach. But for a Roman legionary, that march could last weeks through forests, deserts, and frozen passes without a single supply wagon in sight. So how did they survive? They didn't rely on luxury. They relied on resilience. In this chapter, we go deeper, not into what they ate, but how they made it last. Because preservation, improvisation, and sheer discipline were the real ingredients of the Roman military diet. When Roman soldiers went on campaign, logistics were everything. Unlike modern armies with trucks and helicopters, the Roman legions carried much of their supplies on their backs. Each soldier was expected to be a pack mule, carrying gear, weapons, armor, and at least 3 days' worth of food. This included dried wheat, salt, dried legumes, a bit of cheese, and occasionally salted meat. They also brought cooking pots, flint for fire starting, and a hand mill to grind grain. Every soldier was his own quartermaster. The solution was preparation and preservation. Roman commanders ensured that large amounts of food were prepared ahead of time in mobile granaries located along major Roman roads. Grain was dried, sealed in ceramic jars, and stored in cool, dark places. Dried meat, particularly pork, was smoked, salted, or even pickled in brine. These methods ensured the food could last for months without spoiling, even in hostile climates. Even when on the move, soldiers were taught to forage. Wild herbs, fruits, and nuts were gathered along the march. They hunted small game, fished in rivers, and traded with local villagers. While the army's official rations provided the base, it was often these foraged additions that gave the meals variety and flavor. Soldiers might find wild garlic, pluck figs off trees, or trap a rabbit for stew. These weren't luxuries, they were survival skills. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Roman army was its modular camp system. At the end of each day's march, soldiers built a temporary fortress, complete with ditches, wooden walls, and designated zones, including kitchens. Each contubernium, or group of 8 soldiers, had a small shared cooking area. Fires were lit using kindling collected throughout the day. They ground wheat into flour and baked bread over coals using makeshift ovens dug into the ground. Porridge was cooked in iron pots, and sometimes thickened with bits of lentils or cheese for added substance. In colder regions like Britannia or the Alps, food had to be calorically dense. Soldiers added more olive oil to their meals, sought out nuts and animal fats, and even drank thicker versions of posca. It wasn't about taste, it was about energy. The Roman body was a machine of endurance, and every calorie counted. But there was also a deeper, almost spiritual connection to food. The Roman world believed that diet affected a man's virtues, his strength, discipline, and character. Soldiers weren't encouraged to overeat. Gluttony was for the weak. Simplicity and moderation were praised. Even elite soldiers took pride in living on rough fare. To survive on little and still fight like a lion, that was honor. At times, food was also propaganda. When a general wanted to reward loyalty, he might issue a double-grain ration. When morale was low, commanders might slaughter a pig for the unit to feast on. Food became a symbol of favor, of warning, of reward. But the opposite was also true. During civil wars or mutinies, cutting rations was the first move. Take away a soldier's wheat, and he'd feel it more than losing a sword. There were also emergency protocols. If supplies ran out, grain could be boiled into a watery gruel called poules simplex, barely edible, but enough to keep moving. Soldiers were trained to live without meat, wine, or comfort for days on end. Some even learned how to bake acorn bread or chew tree bark to keep hunger at bay. The line between soldier and survivor blurred during long campaigns. And those who adapted, those who could live off the land and find nourishment in weeds and roots, those men became legends. Even disease and hygiene were tied to food. Clean water was rare, and contaminated supplies could lead to dysentery or worse. That's why posca was so important, not because it tasted good, but because it kept you alive. The vinegar killed germs, the acidity preserved food. It was disgusting, but it worked. And when it came to life or death, Roman soldiers drank survival. The most disciplined armies are not those with the sharpest blades, but those who can fight with empty stomachs. The Roman legion was designed for this. Food wasn't just sustenance, it was a weapon, a psychological edge, and every grain counted. So the next time you picture a Roman soldier, don't just see the armor or the shield. Picture the bag of flour on his back, the hunk of cheese in his pouch, the bitter taste of posca on his tongue. Because before he ever raised his sword, he had to chew. Close your eyes and imagine this. The clang of metal, the pounding of boots, the rising dust of a Roman road. 10,000 men, armor glinting under harsh sun, each carrying a weapon in one hand and a ration bag in the other. For all the glory we attach to the Roman legions, their battles, their conquests, their unshakable formations, it was their ability to eat simply, survive harshly, and endure endlessly that truly made them unstoppable. Because in war, swords may win battles, but food wins empires. The Roman soldier's diet was a mirror of his life. Disciplined, efficient, stripped of indulgence, and driven by necessity. This was no feast of emperors, it was the diet of endurance. The strength of the empire didn't rest in palaces, it rested in the marching men, fueled by lentils, garlic, and hard bread. And this humble, rugged food became part of the identity of a legionary. To eat like a Roman soldier wasn't a punishment, it was a badge of honor. Across the vast empire, supply lines stretched like veins, connecting Rome to Gaul, Egypt, Britannia, and beyond. The centralized grain system, supported by massive granaries and grain fleets, ensured that wheat remained the lifeblood of both civilians and soldiers. Provinces like Egypt became Rome's breadbasket, feeding not just the city, but also armies stationed thousands of miles away. Logistics was no afterthought, it was the quiet engine of dominance. But no system is perfect. When disasters struck, plagues, failed harvests, or naval blockades, soldiers adapted. They returned to the roots of survival. They ground wild grains, crushed acorns, and sometimes even ate animal hides boiled into gelatinous broths. These were men who had mastered both the art of war and the art of hunger. Food scarcity didn't break them, it forged them. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Roman military diet is how it preserved morale and identity. The foods were familiar. The flavors, though simple, reminded soldiers of home. Even in the cold forests of Germania or the burning sands of Parthia, a bowl of pools tasted like Rome. The camp kitchen became a sacred space. Around its fires, soldiers didn't just cook, they bonded. They shared jokes, stories, and fears. Brotherhood wasn't formed in battle, it was simmered in porridge. Even religion and superstition bled into the diet. Certain foods were believed to bring strength, luck, or protection. Before battles, some soldiers avoided meat or fasted to purify themselves. Offerings of bread, wine, or oil were made to Mars, the god of war. After victory, animals were sacrificed, their meat cooked and shared as a celebration of divine favor. Food wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Every bite carried meaning. And then there were the veterans, the old warriors who had marched across continents, seen emperors rise and fall, and survived on little more than dried bread and vinegar. In their stories, the meals they remembered weren't the grand feasts, they were the rough, simple ones. A strip of pork roasted on a stick, a lump of cheese shared in silence before dawn, a bowl of stewed beans after a brutal march. These were the meals that stayed in memory, not because they were delicious, but because they were earned. What's striking is how modern nutrition echoes some Roman logic. Their diet, though plain, was balanced: carbohydrates from wheat, protein from legumes and cheese, vitamins from vegetables, fats from olive oil, and probiotics from fermented vinegar. It was low in sugar, unprocessed, and designed for energy and endurance. In some ways, the Roman soldier was healthier than the modern desk-bound citizen. But the diet wasn't without flaws. Tooth decay was common due to stone-ground flour mixed with grit. Fresh fruit was rare on long campaigns, leading to deficiencies. And despite their knowledge of balance, hunger was always a shadow. Food could run out, supplies could fail, and in those moments, the Roman soldier wasn't just fighting the enemy, he was fighting starvation. Yet he marched on. The Roman legion was not just a military machine, it was a logistical marvel. And at its core was a soldier who knew how to fight, how to build, and how to cook. He didn't need comforts, he didn't ask for praise. He needed a handful of flour, a fire, and his brothers beside him. The next time you look at a Roman shield, imagine the bag slung behind it, the dry bread tucked in a pouch, the scent of onions in a boiling pot. And remember, the Roman Empire wasn't carved by swords alone. It was carved by men who knew how to endure, bite after bite, march after march, century after century. This was the diet of a Roman legionary, simple, powerful, eternal.